How do we manage to have wild daffodils available to plant all year round? These are wild daffodil bulbs here. Uh, a few of them that we collected from ours last year. What we do is when they finish flowering, we collect, dig up some of the big clumps of them and just put like one back where it was, and then these are the ones from last year. We leave them just out to dry on a piece of newspaper, and every day or two we just turn them over and then when they're fully dried, like here, um, just gently pull these leaves off, but don't do that before they're fully dried. They take about a month to dry. Anyway, then we like to store them, but you have to plant them before October, because in October they start sprouting and then they flower in the spring. Anyway, I'll just show you the bulbs to further now. This is like a mature wild daffodil bulb, although they do get a little bit bigger when they're flowering, particularly if they're dividing. They take approximately 7 years to flower from seed. Here, here is a baby one. I think that's 1 or 2 years old. That's a little baby wild daffodil bulb, and that would take about 6 years to flower from there. And then I put it next to one that's maybe a few years older, and there's like a mature one, which is about 7 years old. When they get to that size, they start being able to divide vegetatively like that, where the bulbs split, and that's another way they can spread. The seed pods tend to tangle together and fall to the side, and you tend to get like massive areas of hundreds of baby ones, and these are very easy to dig up just with a finger and very easy to transplant. Now I'm going to compare the wild daffodil bulb size with these daffodils, which a variety called Cabani. And they're not really especially big ones. In fact, they're quite small daffodil bulbs, really, compared to some. But I'll just get one of these, this one here, and look at the difference. Wild daffodil, cultivated daffodil. The reason that wild daffodils are so rare in Britain is largely because of poor land use and land change and use of pesticides and so on. After the Second World War, Britain lost 3/4 of its native hedgerows, and I think it was half or more of its native woodland. It's quite a shocking amount of destruction in the name of productivity. And of course, wide use of herbicides and changing from deciduous trees to conifer trees and all led to the drastic demise of this lovely plant. When they flower, they're only about sort of 6 to 8 inches higher, but like snowdrops, which they're closely related to, they do sort of get bigger as they mature into seed pods, and the stems get about not quite a foot high, but sometimes almost, when they're sort of as seed pods. But I think before I go any further with what I'm doing now, I ought to show you some pictures of what our daffodils looked like last year. One thing we really specialise on is wild daffodils, Narcissus, psudonarcissus. Every year we plant more hedgerows and more native woodland, and we plant more wild daffodils. Wild daffodils are native to the UK, but very rare due to land change and pesticides and things like that. They are quite common in a few places, but most places they are non-existent. Every year we plant loads more of them and loads more other rare native plants. We dig up larger clumps when they finish flowering, dry them out, separate them, and then we have them to plant all through the year until October, when we put the ones we want to plant in pots, and then for ones we plant in the winter, we can just dig up these pots and plant these sprouting ones straight away. Like with snowdrops, wild daffodils transplant very easily when they're actually growing, as in the green. Like when they're just sprouting, when they're flowering, or when they're going to seed, they're very easy to spot and very easy to transplant. Following that time, dug up and dried ones, they then last you all the way to October, but then you have this little gap between October and March where you haven't got any. So that's where this comes in, this John Innes 3 potting compost. So just like if I was planting up a pot of ordinary daffodils, I'm going to just put some compost in the bottom of the pot and then get some wild daffodils and put them sort of facing pointy side up, root side down, like that. And then put them in the pot. Just I think sort of 5 or 6. I don't have them touching each other. Just have them like nicely spaced out, like that. And then put another layer of compost on. Just so far, so you can just see the tips of the other ones. And then put another layer in. So. Take the leaves off, and you can get quite a few layers in, and it doesn't matter if they're deeper or not deeper. Wild daffodils can grow in shallow soil, down to quite a depth actually, but they sort of comfortably like to be about so deep, and they're more easy to dig up if they're not too deep. But in a pot like this, it doesn't matter that you cover them, because it's all going to be planted out, so cover it with another layer of soil. And I think it's just room for one more layer in this pot. And I put the little ones in with the big ones. It doesn't matter too much. They're all going to be dug up and planted as I do landscaping projects through the winter. And finally add another layer of soil and give it a water and put it somewhere out of the way in the garden. During the winter, any landscaping projects and tree planting projects will have available daffodils, because all we do is then dig some of this out, and some daffodils come out with it, and little rooted sprouting ones, and then we just plant them, and it works. So usually tree planting season is in the winter, so we mostly need wild daffodils in the winter. So this is how we do it. And when we plant the snowdrops on the north-east facing sides, we put wild daffodils in with them as well. And we usually plant wild daffodils about, it varies really. Sometimes we plant them further apart, and sometimes we plant them closer together, but usually not more than a foot apart really, because they spread quite quickly, or sometimes in little groups of 3 about that far apart, and then like a foot to 2 feet apart. It just varies what kind of mood I'm in. But we always make sure that any hedges and woodland that we plant always has wild daffodils put in it. And give them a good watering and put them somewhere quiet and out of the way. And possibly a little bit of mulch can sometimes help. So, some soil in the bottom. I'm using John Innes 3, like so. And then some wild daffodil bulbs, doesn't matter what size, just make sure you break any leaves off them. And then do a layer of those, like so. Going through this bag of daffodil bulbs and leaves is quite painstaking. The more you take out, the harder it is to spot them. You just find one, just pull the leaves off, and another one here, and it's quite painstaking finding them back there. There's loads of them there, and when you get down to just the tiny bulbs, and you just can't face getting any more out, you can just put them under some leaf litter and rake them in a bit, and they'll grow there, and if it's a suitable site. But I want to make sure I get all the big and medium and reasonably sized ones out. The daffodils don't mind being planted in layers like this. They sort of don't mind being planted in a spectrum of different depths. And if you plant them all next to each other, you can't get so many in the same space, and they quite easily squeeze up through each other. When you dig up a clump, you often get like some bulbs up here and some bulbs down there, so it's quite natural for them. And it just means you can pack them all into a smaller space, especially since these are going to be planted straight out this winter. So I think I've got about all that I can comfortably get out of here now. So these are going to be put somewhere sort of raked into some leaf mould, because that's just like baby ones and leaves. Always give them a nice water. And I've put them all in this little crate here so I know that they're all the same thing and they won't get lost and mixed up with anything else. And then just a little bit of mulch. If I was doing this with a pot of like daffodils for the garden in a pot, I'd put some wood chips on them. But I'm just going to use a little bit of straw because I'm going to probably want to be digging some of these up quite soon. And this straw's a little bit rotted already. Just give them a little bit more nutrient. And there you go. And just put them somewhere quiet, out of the way, and they'll be fine. So I hope this was useful. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please like and subscribe. And if you press the little me, you can see my other videos. And I shall see you next time.